Yes, it is. And we are live.
Ta-da!
Hello, everybody out there in webinar land. This is our production manager webinar sponsored by TheatreArtLife and Roadies of Color. Take 2. I don't know if anybody watching now watched us a couple, 3 weeks ago blabber on. But while we were blathering on about our various experiences, we were also accumulating some questions from our viewers that we never got a chance to address. So in this session, we're going to address some of the questions that came up in our last session. For those of you unfamiliar with who and what we are, my name is Bill Reeves. I'll be the moderator. I'm the co-founder of Roadies of Color United International. And I don't know where people are on your screen. So when I just say your name, raise your hand. Tony Bulluck there is the production manager, tour manager, for Earth, Wind, and Fire. And let me just preface by saying everybody on the screen has got 20, 30 years of experience. So I won't even go into how much time we've all been wandering around in production land. Next to Tony on my screen is Victor Reed Sr. I don't know, going through Victor's resume would take about a half an hour. So just suffice it to say, and that's just the second half, because don't forget, Victor took time off for a while.
That's right.
So he's on his second. He actually did this job, said, I'm out, was out for a while, and then he grew weak and he let himself get sucked back in to yeah, I don't know. He was out, he had a chance, and then he came back.
Pull me right back in.
Pulled you right back in. Also, we have with us Rebekah Foster, who is a sound engineer, production manager, tour manager, owner of her own audio company, and is also a 20, 30-year veteran of this business. Next to her is Curtis Battles. Curtis is started life as a carpenter, and after a few years of working for idiots, he decided I can do that job better.
I can be a bigger
Then
idiot.
he found out that he could actually make more money and not have to take instructions from dumb people. So he said, well, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and be a production manager. And he's been that for the last 20 some odd years. And then finally, the baby of our group, Ronnie Stephenson, who is only has 20 years in. So he counts as the young boy on the block. So this is our panel. Most of the questions that we received from the last session, interestingly enough, have to do with different aspects of racism in the production industry as regards specifically the backstage where we all work. So we're going to start right off with the first question. And unfortunately, I have the questions, but we didn't capture the people who posed these questions. So those of you who posed these questions, you'll recognize your question. Unfortunately, I can't say who it was because we didn't capture that on the last session. So question number 1, dealing with racism sounds very exhausting. How do you stay focused on the job and not become burnout with the process of dealing with racism? So let's start with you, Tony. How do you stay focused on the job at hand?
Well, because you have to stay focused with the job at hand. You know, you're not working for the racist. That's his problem. That's going to be his problem. That's the way he was raised. That's his whole mind frame. You, on the other hand, you have a responsibility to keep things on track, on schedule. You work for the artists and not for the racists, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
and you'll never get rid of them. Why? Because every day somebody is born, he has parents or whatever or mentors that just keep brainwashing him with racist ideas, thoughts, and opinions. It's going to be here. It's going to be here. But for me, I move on. I move on with my mission. Move on with the job. Get things done. I can't let somebody like that get in the way of deadlines and so on and so forth. If he becomes too visible and too loud, then I'm going to insist with the venue or the promoter, remove this person. Get this problem out of here now. Else you're going to have
Okay.
a bigger problem.
Okay. What about you, Victor?
Well, yeah, it can be a problem. What I try to do, and I totally agree with Tony. We're there to do a job. We're not there to make friends. And as I quote from Curtis, this is show business, not show friends.
There you go.
We're not trying to be friends with you, but there's a level of respect that we have to have. And yes, there's systemic racism. And there's racism that sometimes rears its head when it feels brave and feel like, okay, but they're testing you. They try to test you. It's usually some young, just very checker player type of cat with not very much depth in terms of, he doesn't know that if you do this move, it's going to be several moves behind that you have to deal with. Right? Action is a equal and opposite reaction. He doesn't have that premise in his foresight in approaching us. But they do exist. We have to shut those down. We have to, that's like, It could be cancerous, because if you let that go unchecked, then the other racists that may be behind the door will rear its head. And before you know it, you'll have some guys and that's like, no, we can't have that. And I think if we just stay the course and be professional and do what we do, they show themselves as being like, whoa. I mean, their peers will see him, okay?
Yeah.
Because there's a certain consciousness that we're evolving to right now. When I say a certain consciousness, I mean not everybody is racist. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But the ones that are speaking out, and I like to say that they took their hood off. They still got their robe on, but they took their hood off. I respect that. Yeah. I know who you are. All right.
You and can identify
your hood off.
Yeah.
I see your face. Yeah. I can deal with you. I'm not afraid of you. And then we have some of your peers that are think what you're doing is despicable as well and join on our side. So, it's and it's exhausting for me to just answer the question you asked. So it's like, I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else.
Okay. What about you, Rebekah?
I mean, nothing more needs to be said, and I concur with Tony. I've actually seen Tony assign somebody to a parking lot. So when I was
I like that. So, assign them to the parking lot.
I've seen people be assigned. But the other thing that Victor mentioned is sometimes the people around them handle it. We continue with our mission and our behavior at one level, and eventually their peers or the people they work with every day are like, man, you got to take that somewhere else. Because they have a job to do too. They want to, because
they're trying to get the job done. Yeah,
everybody's trying to get the job done. And if there's one person that's causing a stop in the production, everybody wants that person out of the way. So it kind of works itself out, and it is exhausting. And you just have to keep doing what you're doing, and lead by example, because hopefully by the end of the day, maybe something you've done shows them the error in their ways.
Good point. What about you, Curtis? Mr. Show friend, not show business.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with the panel exactly. What everybody said. I mean, it gets to a point where a lot of time we walk into a venue, we know the regulars there. And we know who we're going to deal with. And, it's up to us to kind of pick them out in the morning and deal with them. You know, and I'm like what Tony said. I will send him to the parking lot, but Tony's nice. He sent him to the parking lot. I'll send his ass home ASAP. Because you know what? You're there for a reason. You're looking at the big picture. You're there for a reason. You need a check, just like
Yeah.
everybody else. You know, so if you don't want to work that day, don't come and be the cancer and make it bad for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Ronnie?
I echo everything that the panel said. I mean, I think you want to stay professional, but I do agree with Victor. It has to be addressed.
right?
Yeah.
You cannot let it go unchecked. Everybody has a boss. So, for the most part, I won't even deal with that person. I'll take it above that person because they obviously aren't even worth the conversation because they won't get it. So, but I agree. It needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
The one thing that occurs to me is that one of the through lines of everybody's comments here is something that we have to always remember is you said everybody's got a boss. Well, in that particular situation, we as production managers are pretty much the boss that day. So we do have the power, like Tony does, is to assign them to the parking lot because at the end of the day, it's our production that owns the venue that day. It doesn't own the venue tomorrow or yesterday, but today we own that venue, and we do have a bit of power to address those kinds of situations because it's impeding the flow of work as well, which translates to money for the venue, for the other stagehands, for us, for the artists. We're all there to do a job and make some money. And if there's one or two people that are impeding that flow, we do have the power to, you know,
Send them
assign
home.
them to the parking lot
Oh,
and
absolutely.
keep on moving. So the next question, and I think we're all of these questions are going to sort of dance around the same subject. So the next question is, what's in your toolbox for dealing with racism when it's blatant and or when it's micro? And I mean, we've kind of actually basically kind of addressed that, I think. Anybody want to jump in with another thought other than going like Ronnie says? You go to that person's boss and say, "This guy or this woman, this person has got to go because they're making life hard for everybody else." Are there any other um, tricks
Well,
or tools?
I just say, Bill, that for the people who are watching, who this is new to them, it's very important to understand the chain of command and understand everyone's roles when you walk in. Just like Curtis addressed, we know who we're going to be dealing with, but it's important for people to understand the chain of command so you don't waste time going to a bunch of different people. You know who's going to be the decision maker, and you want to deal with the decision maker.
Good point.
And it,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
also
good.
come down to Bill. I mean, every situation will be different, but it also come down to respect too. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when you walking in the building, you got to give respect in order to get respect. You
Yes.
walking into someone's room, you know. If you walk into a room, of course you should walk in and speak to everyone in there. You know, so I mean, it comes down to that too. You know.
So that's a good point. So one of the tools is to give respect and expect to get respect, which I agree because that tends to tamp down. If you walk in um, with a bad attitude in the morning, you're going to get that bad attitude back,
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Right.
even from people who normally wouldn't consider themselves racist. But if they think of you as an asshole, then you already got a
Yeah.
problem. And then
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
happen to be black and an asshole, then you're two strikes down
Right.
before you even, get two steps off the bus.
Yeah.
And
So
a
I
lot.
would say one of the tools to combat racism is that getting and receiving respect, giving and receiving respect, because that, in my view, goes a long way towards don't have like we said, you're not looking like Victor says, you're not looking to make friends. You're looking to get a job done.
No.
And you don't have to like each other.
No,
you don't have to
like
like
each other and
There-
do your job.
There's nothing about liking or loving anybody anywhere, because and it's also a matter of discipline as well. If you walk into a building in the morning and you wander around and you say, well, what's up with this, what's up with that, you're not going to get respect and discipline back. You're not. You walk in that building in the morning, you want to talk with and meet with the decision makers immediately.
Yep.
Along with the other decision makers that you've already talked to and met with before you get there.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. As simple as that. If anybody else wants to step out of line and make quote unquote an ass out of themselves, then it's simple. You talk to their supervisor and you talk to the building who is their supervisor, and you let them know, what do you want to do? You want to make money, or you want to go to hell home?
It's real simple.
We all
It is. It's either you can get a paycheck, or you can get a hot dog on the roadmap and get the hell out of here.
All right.
As simple as that.
It's all about the same. We're all trying to reach the same goal. We want to
Yeah.
let's solve the problem, nip it in the bud early, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Let's get this show up and rolling.
Yes. Yeah.
Where we all get paid for and what we enjoy doing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the point that Tony makes, though, maybe let me expand on that a little bit, is if you walk in the morning and you know what the hell you're doing, you have an agenda, you have a plan and a schedule, and you communicate that directly to the people who need to have that information, you get right to work. But if you walk in and don't have a plan and don't have an agenda and are just kind of stumbling around, and this goes back to the respect thing that we were talking about. If you do not portray yourself as somebody who knows what the heck he or she is doing, then the building or the stagehands or whoever will tend to take advantage of that. So you have to be strong in what it is you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, what your schedules are, what your agenda. We're going to do this first, second, third. Here's my time schedule, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
We're going to load this truck first. We're going to load that truck. Whatever that all is.
Right. Yeah.
If you and your staff, and don't forget, this not only is you as the production manager, but this has to obviously include your stage manager and your crew chiefs and everybody else on your team. If you walk in the door with a plan and an agenda, you're halfway home right away, because they're going to tend to go with what you think you want to do. Unless, of course, you're, in local one, then you're going to go with what they want you to do.
Now, you know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Curtis. Go ahead.
Bill, let me tell you a story. I mean, the panel. I walked in a building one day at 4 a.m. in the morning for a load-in. I've been doing this event for 3 years straight. I mean, so we do 11. I had one steward there, 4 truck loaders, catering, 36 donuts, and coffee, and no stagehands. And the guy gonna come in late and tell me I didn't order stagehands. I only need 12 of them. Out of respect, as many shows that I've done with this event, you're gonna tell me I didn't order stagehand, but I got a crew chief, I got 4 truck loaders, I have a forklift driver, electrician, catering, and 36 donuts. And you're gonna tell me I dropped the ball and didn't order stagehand. Oh, no.
That turned out to be a long morning, I take it.
Yeah. He made a real bad mistake.
He made a huge mistake. And this is an event that I've been doing every summer for 3 years straight.
Yeah.
So, but the way we got through it was I traveled with a 12-man crew. We was all good enough to pull this off ourselves.
Yeah.
But then took it back to the venue and made them pay us as stagehand also.
That's right. That's right.
Good.
That's right.
You go.
That expense is going to go down in settlement anyway. And why should they get paid and they didn't do the job?
And we're talking A-rated building,
Yeah.
Right.
major city.
And you came in at 4 o'clock, so you
At
walked
4
in.
a.m. for a 12 o'clock event.
So
Yeah.
look at all that double time before
Yeah, I
8
was gonna
a.m.
say you
Exactly.
walked in at 4. Good point.
Oh man,
I mean that
and
brings
and
up
the guy said, well, he felt like I didn't deserve the job. And who are you to tell me I don't deserve that job? Oh, I mean,
Right.
we had a real long day that day.
yeah, I was gonna say
I
that
mean,
was
crew
I
wise,
can imagine.
our staff was top notch. We pulled it off. We was a stagehand, but we don't get paid to be a stagehand. We
yeah,
get paid as directors.
yeah. Well, you was a stagehand that day, and you got paid.
Oh, absolutely. So,
And that comes right back around to what we were talking about earlier is having an agenda, having a plan, having a schedule.
yeah,
Daryl Brooks here mentions the importance of advancing the show.
right.
And that's part and
Crucial.
that feeds right into the whole give respect and get respect. If you're 2 weeks out or 3 days out or 2 months out, whatever it is, and you have started your advancing process, and once again, you know what you're doing, your advancing documents are clear and concise, your conversations are clear and concise. I need 12 hands, I need 4 loaders, whatever it is. You already demonstrate that you know what the heck it is you're doing.
Right.
Unlike your guy who obviously just had his head way up his ass. But
Right.
once in a while you run into that. That's why,
But a lot of time we get
you're out there.
Bill, but a lot of time we get a bad rap coming in. Depends on what artist you're coming in with.
Yeah.
The stage hands, the building people, they automatically assume it's going to be the worst day of their life the next day when they load in with you,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just across the board. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, particularly as we know, if you're working for a rapper, you're
absolutely.
already got a strike against you.
You already got a strike walking through the door.
You already have it.
It
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because those guys, those hands get paid the same.
Correct.
What I don't care who it is. They get paid the same. Somebody is in some places the guy lowest on the totem pole is $42.50 an hour, guaranteed 4 hours, and in a lot of places guaranteed 8 hours. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't care. You get paid.
No, we don't get but the point is they can have an attitude just because it's a rapper. So they just automatically assume it's a rap act. There's going to be some bullshit, and the crew doesn't know what they're doing because they're all homies and friends of the artist, and they don't really have any competency.
Right.
And once again, if your advancing is correct, if you know what you're doing and you communicate that, you can sort of get over that initial hump of, oh, it's a rap act and they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
You can kind of get past that.
Right.
You can get over it sometimes because they might think that the advance was a fluke.
Correct.
True. But that's where your own personal confidence in what you're doing comes in. So they might think somebody else did the advance, and you're just the poor sap that has got to be there on site.
Wait a minute, as Tony would say, your security coming in there, right?
Yeah,
they get security, right? Or the janitor, right?
They say, well, he doesn't have a broom, so he must be security.
Yeah. So here's another question. Moving on here, and I think this is a quick answer. Can you require diversity training from tour crew as part of your hiring requirements? Could there be a requirement for local crew to have diversity training? I would say no, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, that's a complex question with a complex answer. There literally are some locals, union locals, that do some kind of training or some time with their guys. Okay, they do. Then again, there's other venues and places that are not union, and they don't do any required training or whatever. So that's a complex question. Some of it is going to have to be learned by doing or standing close to the fire. and you just hope for the better. But we don't have the answer to that. That's a tough question.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's laws and locals and rules and regulations. I mean, what do you think, Rebekah?
My stance is just a little harder. It's not my responsibility to educate you on your racism. You go figure that out before you come to work.
Okay,
and if
fair
you are
enough.
not willing to come to work in a diverse environment, then go find something else to do. I just don't have I think diversity training is important, but the responsibility is on the perpetrator, not on the victim.
Good point.
It's not my job.
Yeah.
And if you want to see how it works, my crew is totally diverse. We have everybody, everything. We all work together. As you say, it's one common goal. And if you come in with a perceived attitude that we may or may not know of, eventually your attitude will be changed because we're a family. And if we're 48 people on the crew, we're 48 people that get up, eat, wash, shower, build a gig, break a gig down, travel miles together. And if you're not working within that circle, then you find your way out. And it doesn't matter who you are,
or a way out will be found for you,
or a way out will be found for you. But I think the onus is on the racist.
And I agree.
Well,
what do you say? Go ahead, Victor.
Because I look at this is two parts. Can you require diversity training from tour crew? Okay, so we have the tour crews in which we hire, and then we have the crews that come with the vendors in which we hire as well.
Right.
Now, we do have some say-so, and maybe not necessarily having diversity training, but making sure that we have inclusion of people of color from the vendor to come. Okay, and I think we have to set the tone and the precedence of how we want our tour ran. Listen, I have a thing with my crew. I have to be the biggest asshole on my crew. In terms of having diversity with the crew, that's the only way I think we can do that from the touring standpoint. Like Rebekah has a rainbow coalition that she rolls with her, and we all have our cats that we like and we deal with that roll with us, and it's diverse because that's where it is. Now, in terms of the local crew, that's a hard one. All right.
Yeah,
now,
because you're only
we can request it, but I don't even think we have the energy nor the time to allocate energy towards doing that because we're there and then we're out.
And we're out.
You just got to make sure. Then it gets back to the question number 1 or 2. Well, we just had to check them. And like Tony said, this cat needs to be in the parking lot. Or Curtis say, worst case scenario, send his ass home. So, but I think in terms of the traveling party, we
of course, you have control over that.
We have control. You
have control. You don't have control over the local crew.
No, you don't.
And you're only there for 12 hours, 16 hours, or whatever it is a day.
Right. And you know what? And the only way to combat that is to come in there with excellence. If you come in there with excellence, they have no choice but to respect. They might not like you, but it's not a prerequisite that
they don't have to like you.
You don't have to like me.
Right. When we put the spec on my name, that's all I want you to do. Okay. So that's my
I think at this point in time where we are as a country, as a nation, as a world, there's got to be diversity. These buildings, these unions, these crews, the excuse forever has been, I can't find qualified people of color. I don't know any women that are capable engineers or plumbers or whatever it may be. But that's a crock of lie. That's an excuse.
Yes.
And I think at this point, with not only the noise that race of color is making, but that the world is making, there are plenty of talented people of every race, creed, whatever, that you can hire.
And gender.
Get your lazy ass up and hire them.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it also
and if they're not good, get rid of them. Same as if it was a white person.
Yep.
Make the playing field equal and allow people to go do their jobs, like you said, Victor, with excellence.
Excellent.
And Rebekah, and I agree with you 100%. But it also starts with the artist and management.
Oh, absolutely.
If you got an artist up there and he don't see anyone that looks like him, but he's paying everybody, that should be a problem. Even the artist is smart enough to say, hey, what's going on around here, you know?
It
Yeah.
should be a problem either way. If they're on
Oh,
the
yeah.
stage, if they're a white man or woman
White,
on
black, green, and
stage,
blue.
and look around and
I agree
see
with
a sea of them, which is how it's been for years.
correct.
You know, come on, wake up. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Well, I think, and I mean, we're living in a particular point in history and time right now where these kind of conversations like this webinar that we're having right now, and like all of the webinars and symposiums and articles and blah 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 that have gone on this last year, that have never happened before. You know, obviously we have the dual issues of the Black Lives Matter movement and no work. So as an industry,
Right.
we've had an unprecedented amount of time to really stop and think and deal, not necessarily deal because we still have no industry to deal with, but to think about and discuss these issues of diversity and racism and systemic racism, et cetera, et cetera. So I really do believe, because I guess I'm essentially an optimist, that going forward, there will be some inroads made. You know, something like diversity training as a concept wasn't even a concept a couple of years ago. And at least now it's something that people talk about, not just us, but governments and you know, not industry people talk about, you know, corporations and whatever
Mm-hmm.
talk about diversity training. So I would hope going forward, once we come back online as an industry, that we'll see some amount of improvement in these issues, if only because of all the conversations we're all having right now, not only today, but, you know, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I've seen and participated in a bunch of different panels over the last year. Not all black, not all white, but a pretty large, diverse group of production managers, tour managers, agents, vendors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of whom are beginning to address this problem. So hopefully people won't go to sleep and forget about all of this when we get back to work.
And it's
We
also
can
our,
We won't let them. We won't
Yeah,
let
it's
them.
our
and
responsibility.
I don't see. It's
I
like
was going to say it's
the
also on us
genie is
too.
out of the bottle now. I don't know
Correct.
how you just put the genie back in and said, okay, let's all go back to 2018 and
Correct.
pretend that 2019 and 2020 didn't exist. You know, so hopefully when we get back up and running, we'll still be talking and we'll still be discussing and we'll still be making these points. Certainly, we as production and tour managers who do the hiring will have a better sense of our own power. And like Curtis and Victor said, you know, you start with the vendors, you know,
Absolutely.
go to the guy, or not the guy, but the corporation that you're going to spend $100,000 with, or 200,000, whatever it is, dollars with,
Right.
and say,
Yeah.
you want the money that I have to spend. Here's, you know, you got to give me this gear, but you also have to give me this personnel or this mixture of people to service the gear. And I think we'll kind of be moving along in the right direction.
Right.
The next question: how do you work to end discrimination that exists in the industry? Well, we're doing that now. Here's
You
the
keep
second.
being better.
Here's and the corollary to this question is: white production staff works for black artists, but not many black production staff work for white artists. Um, that's not a question; that's a statement. But I think we're kind of addressing that. This is all
To come to boycotting an artist who won't hire, or a managed company that won't hire people of color.
Right.
You know, hopefully it won't have to get to that, but at some point the tables have to turn.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
Now, you know what I'm gonna say, because in his statement here, white production staff work for black artists, but not many black production staff work for white artists. There was a time, and we all are old enough to know this, but there was a time where a lot of management and artists as well had that mindset that white is right.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just going to put it out there.
And they still
that's
do.
racist
Don't
as
be
hell,
fooled.
but that was definitely
Yeah.
the mindset. Now, the only way to combat that stigma, that when they see a rap group come in there or whatever, and you come in and you got your homeboys, is with excellence. If you come in there and you show excellence, if you shine above and beyond whoever else was there, then we pretty much leave it in their court now, and they'll look like Boo Boo the Fool. It's like, well, wait a minute. We can no longer say that the black production is some bootleg.
Is inferior, yeah.
Yeah, inferior. It's not.
Or
It's
they
not.
don't know what they're doing.
And they don't know what they, because you know what?
Yeah.
In spite of them wanting to say that, it's the hardest thing for them to do, because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, if you look at Black Lives Matters and everything that took place across the country and the world, when Floyd was killed, we have these young, and I'm not gonna call them sisters and brothers because they're young enough to be my children, but the young white millennials gathered around the movement. Okay,
Yeah.
so that they're the future. They're the future of America and the world, hopefully. You know what I'm saying? That mindset that they're in. And of course, some fall through the cracks and get polluted with the old systemic racist, ideological bullshit that they put into their children, which just puts us where we are right now. But my thing is this: excellence. So we ain't got to talk. We ain't got. You know what? Let our fruit speak for itself. You can judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. Let our fruit, and we have to pass it along. We have to make sure we pass this forward. We can't just hold on to it.
Exactly.
We have to pass it forward. That's how we change that white is right mentality. And it's coming, because right now
it is. I agree.
Right.
Conversations, but it's being had. It's being had all the time now. So
this is a can. I don't know if we want to get into this, but when we talk, when we talk in the systemic racism, the word that comes to my mind are the unions in many places, because as much control as we have, those unions are so powerful in so many of these markets that those guys are getting paid anyway. They could get sent home.
Right.
I mean, I had a situation, just a quick story. I had a situation where I was in a building and my laptop was stolen out of my office. And the general manager of that building told me if I stayed overnight, he had a feed to all the cameras that only went to his office, and he would review those cameras with me. We reviewed them the next morning. We saw the stagehand go in my office, take my computer. He called the heads of the union. They came to the office. They showed him the camera. They looked at me. They said, so what do you want to do? Do you want money or do you want your computer? And our computers have everything. I said, I want my computer back.
Yeah.
Within 30 minutes, they came back in. They handed me my computer. They said, please check and make sure all the information is on it. So I open it up. I check everything. It's all there. So the general manager of the building tells the guys, the union guys, he says, this guy's not going to be allowed in my building anymore. And the guys looked at him straight face and they said, we can't guarantee you that. And at that point, I was like, I'm done here. I'm out of here. Let me grab my computer and go, because I see this conversation is going to get tense. But that's how powerful they are, that they're telling the general manager of their building that, so, that's the part. I don't know if anyone wants to address that, but how do we combat that? Like with the unions?
That's hard to address, because I had a situation similar to that, but only what went missing was 2 damn Verilites.
What? Who's
gonna
steal a Verilite?
Yeah, and it was from a amphitheater upstate New York. We've all done that place, and this happened years ago. 2 of the damn Verilites from the package I was carrying walked away.
Wow.
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 But if you
But
get 2 per show, you got a whole rig.
yeah.
You know, if you get 2 per
But
show,
to
you got a
address that
rig.
Well,
question, to
I
address the
was
question,
carrying 80 of them damn things at that
Right.
time.
yeah, to address the question, what do you do about the locals? Um, the short answer is not a whole lot.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I will, however, say this, and speaking to Victor's point, that we've seen an awakening from young folks, millennials and whatever, about Black lives and diversity, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's been my experience over the better than 40 years, that slowly the locals are changing, because what we're seeing is the real hardcore, dyed in the wool cracker dudes that used to run the locals are getting old and dying,
Right.
and there's a younger
Yes.
generation. And I've seen this in a bunch of different locals,
Right.
where when I first started going to that local, they were real hardcore, screw you, da 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 da, I don't care, you're black, or you're just a roadie, or you're just this, and I don't give a shit, we're doing it my way, blah blah blah. Over time, those hardcore dudes have retired, gotten older, they've died, they retired, whatever's happened. Younger people have come in to power positions in the locals, and I've seen this sort of change the flavor of the local. So there are some locals now that are a little less hardcore than they used to be, just because the leadership in that local is a younger demographic, hipper demographic, a demographic that's grown up in a different day and a different time. So there is
Right. And
good
like Victor
point.
said, excellent. If you go in there,
you
you
gotta
walk
do.
in the building and you know your show, can't nobody in that building tell you how to do your show,
No.
because they don't know your show. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And at
all
the end of the
about
day, it still comes down to the power of the dollar. You
correct
know, you are bringing money into everybody's pocket that day,
that day.
and let's go make this money.
Yep.
And
We're not
it's a
trying to be
simple.
friends. We're
Yeah,
not trying to
we're
be your
Right.
friend.
Right.
Which is
We all need to pick up the money. Let's
That's
do
it.
it to the best of our ability, show that excellence, and leave.
yeah.
I may or might not like my client. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not
It
personal.
doesn't matter.
It's business.
Yeah.
It's
So that's
business.
what
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
we've all worked for artists that we didn't personally like,
right.
Ooh.
or didn't even particularly like the music. But
Right.
you
Right.
still you're a
I-
professional. You got a
I
job to
have
do.
clients.
You
I've
do
had
the
clients
job.
I decide not to work for. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what?
Right.
But they're hot. Yeah, I know. I don't want to work for them. Good. You know what I'm saying? It's like, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they
I think
continue to
we've
be
all
hot or
done that,
not.
Victor.
It's cool. I don't want to work
Yeah.
for them. So, yeah.
And
So
another
move.
thing, hey Bill, let's stay back on that question.
Go ahead.
Your question 4 was how do you end discrimination in the industry?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think we'll never end it. But
Mm.
one way we can work on it better, when our people are, have tour manager, production manager job. What pisses me off more when I see African American production managers, tour manager, and they have very little to no one on their crew represent.
Oh yeah. Well.
I mean, and we're getting that a lot too. We are getting that a lot in our industry.
Yeah, we are.
And that's the pet peeve. That's the pet peeve to me,
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
a
like,
good
come
point.
on now. How
a good
can you
point.
sit there and represent our people, but you don't have anybody working
But
on the
it's
job
only
making
you.
1,200? Only you, yes.
It don't look
Yeah.
good.
That's not a good
That
look.
doesn't look good. And even with vendors, I mean, I always, it used to be that I would ask jokingly, like, make sure I see some, color on that crew. But now I do, and I think
Oh,
we
you
can
have
all
to.
do that. Now the last few years, last 5-10 years, I need to see some people of color on the crew.
Beck.
I know you got some black stage hands.
Hey, Becky,
Yeah.
you know what? And the trip thing about it, once they know it's a production that you're part of, they're already going to be proactive to get you somebody before you
They're gonna
even
get you
ask.
stuff about it.
Before I even
Absolutely.
You know,
ask,
so you
all
can
right.
pat them on the back when they get there. Hey, they ain't gonna say nothing. Nothing will be
Right,
said,
yes.
but they'll
Right.
know. It's like, oh yeah, I took care of it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Rebekah coming. We better
Got
be
Rebecca.
right.
Okay, we got to
Oh,
We
make
got to
absolutely.
act right. 'Cause
Which is
Rebekah's
smart.
coming.
It's smart on their
no,
part.
because if we don't advocate, those of us in power, quote unquote, if we don't advocate, then who is going to?
They won't. They will not.
You know, we're going to have to speak up and say, when I walk in that building, I need to see somebody that looks like me.
Oh.
And I don't need to see them just cleaning the dressing rooms or taking the plates at catering.
Or walking in with me.
I need to see them in a position.
Yeah.
You know,
but your point, your point, Curtis, is a good point. Is if we as people of color in tour and production management positions don't practice what we preach and at least hire our own, you know, and it doesn't mean you have to just have an all black crew just because it ought to be an all black crew.
Like Rebekah said, it's a rainbow.
But you need to at least be aware that your crew needs to be diverse. And nobody in this panel, I think, is guilty of walking in the door with an all white crew and they're the only black person on the bus. But it has happened. Particularly happens in the higher elevations of the business when you're working with an artist who's a big artist with a lot of money, with a big management company, with a big production, and it's possible that you might have gotten the job, but when you turn around and hire who you get your staff together, it turns out to be
may I say this, Bill, though?
All white.
Let me make it perfectly clear to whoever's listening. Just because you're a person of color, you're gay, you're LGBTQXYZ, a woman or not, don't think just because you're in that person of color that you're getting the job.
No, you got to be good
at it.
Yeah, good at it.
Because if you 100%. Come and you're half-assed, you're gone.
Yeah. No, I
don't need a wink link, and I'll fire a charity
a brother as quick as I'll fire a white guy if he ain't
doing the
job.
I've had to get rid of
most of my crews
for just dropping the ball.
Most of my crews are black, and I've fired a bunch of black guys because they weren't getting the job.
You have to keep it up.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in, a lot of people now they only want to work for money. Sometimes you got to show up for experience.
Yes.
You have to show up to the gig and let people see your worth.
That's true. If you're young and trying to kind of break in and get a rep, you do have to sometimes say, well, I'd like to make a little more money, but I'm happy to make a little money because that'll get me a reputation and relationships and contacts that down the road will allow me to make better money.
Right.
Exactly.
Just like me.
So yeah. All right. So moving because we got to move along on time here. Moving away from racism to kind of nuts and bolts stuff. We have a question here. Basically, what's the biggest challenge you found as a production manager moving from medium-sized gigs to larger arena shows? In other words, as a production manager, what was your biggest challenge when you started to go to big shows, arena shows, stadium shows, as opposed to theater shows or club shows?
Paying attention to the details. There's a small detail.
Yep.
Surrounding yourself with a very good crew.
Yep.
It's if you surround yourself with an 18, everybody's going to come out smelling like this.
Yeah,
exactly.
But you also with the 18, you got to bring some B and C and D guys with you to teach them.
Yeah, but your key guys, your key people have to be A level people.
Your key people has to be A people. Yes.
And pay attention. What I tell people all the
small
time,
details.
My job is mostly about paying attention. There's no secret, like only people who do big shows know secret stuff that people who do little shows, because it's the numbers are the same. You have to have the same conversation if you're talking about one truck or 30 trucks. You still have to have a conversation about trucks. You still have to have a conversation if you are asking for 10 hands or 200 hands, you still got to make those conversations and have those numbers. So really, the number changes, the job doesn't.
Real
Right.
In my view,
Yep.
the
Real
job
The
is
real
the
estate
same.
does, yeah.
Oh, it's real estate.
No.
You never stop learning.
No.
You never stop
Exactly.
learning.
You never
I
stop
don't
learning.
have. I'll call
Exactly.
Bill, Victor. I'll call anybody. I always call Tony. It doesn't matter. You don't know everything. There's something
Yeah,
to learn.
right.
Somebody's been to this building. You've been there 20 times. Somebody's been there 40.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
you know,
And you
just
have
ask questions.
you have to learn. You have to learn from everything you do. You have to. That's the only way you're going to be competent and disciplined. You have to learn, no matter
Yeah.
what. Learn from each other. Learn from what you do. Just learn.
Each one
And,
teach
learn
and
one.
from your
I think
mistakes.
to Rebecca's point, on the last panel discussion, we talked about how the buildings talk to each other, and I think it's important for people to know that it's good that we speak to each other. When
Absolutely.
we have questions or challenges or whatever, especially when it comes to like festivals and stuff like that. I think it's important, because at the end of the day, we want to try and save money too. We want to do what's cost effective for our clients, good business for people. But I was going to say the same thing, Rebecca. It's important for everyone to know that it's okay not to know everything, and to
It
be and
is.
still be secure with that.
And it doesn't make you less
Any less.
No.
if you say call somebody else and say, hey,
Yeah.
have you ever been to this place? Have you ever done this show? Have you done this festival? What did you find? How did you deal with it? Whatever. Because
I think somebody in our group just asked that the other day about Dubai, about a show in Dubai or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
We got
Yeah.
the question. And just, I mean, the age-old saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to leave and find another
You need
room.
new friends.
You need new friends.
You need
Right,
new friends.
exactly. The same should be with your crew. The
Oh,
same should
absolutely.
be with your crew. You have to know that your LD, your VD, whomever it is, at that game, they're the best that there is. So whatever you might not be able to do, they might be able to guide you and say, hey, this might work better because of this situation.
Yes.
Right.
You cannot be the smartest in the room. Always
No.
just ask for help.
It always has to be the collective operating for the whole.
Right.
It has to be that way.
Exactly.
Well,
And
I mean,
if
that's
you
one of
fail,
the-
that's okay.
Especially if you want people accountable for their gig. You hire people because they're the best at what they do, and it's important in order to hold them accountable that you give them an opportunity to speak up for themselves when that time comes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you make a mistake, learn from it and keep it moving.
Because we all gonna
make
make
mistakes.
We're all gonna make mistakes. And like you say, you learn it from your mistakes,
Yeah.
And one of the things that actually that circles back to what we like about this business is that it is a collective prize, so you should collaborate. You should talk to your people, talk to your peers, talk to the people on your crew chiefs, whatever, because that's how this whole thing works. It's not just one lone wolf. It's a group, it's a team, and you have to have that kind of attitude. This is kind of a different question. Could you talk about your experience in South America?
Yes.
Okay, well, Tony, go ahead and talk about your experience in South America.
Well, thanks a lot, Bill. I have had good experience down in South America. Back in the early '80s, Hollywood Rock and Rio, I did several of those things. I've done amphitheaters over in Santiago. I've done festivals down in Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo. I've done gigs down in Argentina. Basically, it's a challenge. You do learn, but I'm basically not intimidated because the bottom line with every show is getting the production up and going and rendering a good show and get as many asses and seats as you can.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So I feel safe to say yes. I've done stuff down in South America, kind of extensively. Uh, with the group Earth, Wind, and Fire, I remember we did a bunch of shows through South America with the rejuvenated Journey with the new lead singer. We did some shows down there with Peter Frampton, stuff like that. Even did a weird show over outside of Santiago on the Pacific coast. It was like a brand new amphitheater dropped out of the sky in somebody's backyard. A family had built it, and it seated 10,000 people, 8-truck dock in the middle of the jungle or somewhere. But the big thing was they would have this series of shows, and the audience in attendance would rate the acts, whether or not they did a good show or bad show. We took the trophy home. What can I say? But it's been a great experience. There are some difficulties. You're not going to run trucks and buses around in South America. That's for damn sure. You're going to have to fly and air freight a lot. You really are. You really are. But I've done a good variety. I've done big outdoor amphitheaters, festivals, casinos. The whole gambit.
Yeah, I think one of the things in my, not as extensive as you, Tony, but I've done some South America stuff. The technology is the same. A light is a light. The power is different, but we deal with that. But a light is a light. A speaker is a speaker. So the bare bones of the job is the same wherever you go. Mm-hmm. And whether it's South America or Africa or Europe or whatever, the gear is the same, and the competency level of the crews vary, but they vary here also. So it's going to be what it's going to be. The language obviously is an issue. You have to have a translator or whatever. But my experience,
you're not bilingual, Bill?
No, I can barely speak English. I have English as the first and only language. But basically, it's the job is the same wherever you go.
You just need to have patience when you hit South America.
Thank you.
You need to have
patience.
I mean,
the pace of work may be different in different locations. You're used to running in the door and boom, boom, let's go. And you may run into a situation where it's a little more laid back, but everybody still knows that by 8:00 that night, you got to do a show.
The show going on.
Now you may work up till 7:45 and you're used to, knocking off at 4:30. But by 8:00, you're still going to have that show up and running.
Right. And I've done a lot of shows in South America, and it's always been a good experience. I mean, we may take an extra day to get the show in. It comes down to patience.
Well, depending on where you are and what the geographical, geopolitical, blah 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 blah.
But usually the labor, the promoters and stuff, they're always very very helpful.
One thing I've been increasingly impressed with is how the industry down in South America has grown. Meaning they picked up more gear. They're doing quality better production. Better training.
Yep.
We did some corporate shows down in Cancun. If anybody knows the group Earth, Wind, and Fire, they get a lot of corporate work all over this world. And sometimes the locations are just a hell of a challenge. We were down in Cancun, and I was asking for specific consoles. I even asked Yamaha directly. And Yamaha, oh, no, we don't have these down in South America. In Mexico? No way. And I'm talking to my counterparts down there in Mexico. Oh, not a problem. Yeah, there's 2 of them down here. Yeah, we'll get them. And they got the damn consoles in. They got in. Right. They do. And some of our companies here have big production hubs down there in
It's
Mexico.
they do work down there.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do as
Yeah.
good a work with as good a gear, with as competent personnel, you know, as is anywhere else you care to name. I mean,
Because
I
it's
don't.
cheaper to
I think
use.
like Curtis said, you want to get boots on the ground as early as possible
Correct.
because it's going to take a little bit more time. So, you know, it's just better to try, even if you have to send an advanced person, but this is something that you have to budget for, you have to consider.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for me, my experience between South America and Africa has been very similar. I've experienced a lot of the same challenges in terms of production, in terms of, you know, for Latin America, they're contra riders. So, you know, you send them a rider, they send you back their version of your rider.
Wait a minute. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? So Ronnie, you're absolutely right. So
Right.
I took in 2019, I did the whole Lollapalooza run in South America. I took Kendrick Lamar down there. And in advancing, remember we say 95% of your gig is advancing. So me advancing, and they're sending me bits, and I had to stop. I said, no. I did my format. I sent it to them. We're going to check this out now. Okay. Now you send it back. So I had and it's about, because what it is, you want to make sure you have accountability. Okay. I'm going to hold you accountable to what you say. All right.
Yeah.
You can tell me yes to shut me up, but we're going to type yes, or no. And everybody's
Yeah.
going to see this. So, and then that guy like, oh, then it came a little slower. First it was yes. Then it was a little, well, you do this. And well, what about, is this well, I don't have that.
Right.
Oh, now that's advanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
Right.
that. But to what you said, though, Tony, the technology, what's happening with the gear now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but it's still a festival. It's festival, so you still have
But
to
you
have
know
that.
what, Victor? What you
But-
said applies worldwide.
It does. This
Yeah.
is everywhere. You're right.
Yeah.
No, but it's a little bit more attention
South America, you got to
in
really
South America.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in South America,
And
yeah, I've
and
done it
really-
a couple
Victor's
of
right.
times. You have to do that in South Africa.
It's a line for line, item for item
Right.
deal. You
Yeah,
have
you can't
to-
make
have to.
assumptions.
Yep.
You
And
can't
that's
make
the same
assumptions.
thing in Eastern Europe too.
I made
Right.
spread, but see, Europe, they're a little bit more, you
They're
know.
more advanced.
If you go to certain countries, you'll deal with the same thing. I'm not talking about I'm not talking
The
about
EU.
the Paris or the
Right.
London or
The
Yeah.
major,
those
yeah.
places. You go to a smaller market.
Is here and that, and then the other
I
thing,
know,
and,
right?
you know, they don't know what a forklift is, and you know, all of that.
Gobble
Before we
stopper.
Garbage
get to
stopper,
that,
Germany.
thank you, everybody.
Well, if they didn't know what a forklift was, you must have been doing the shows in China.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. I hope this was useful to the people out there in viewer land. We've enjoyed this. We're probably going to do something on a slightly different subject in the near future, so stay tuned. Thank you to Theater Art Life. Thank you to Roadies of Color United International. Thank you to Tony Bulluck, Victor Reed, Curtis Battles, Rebekah Foster, Baby Ronnie, and we're out.
All right.
See everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Good to see
All right.
everyone.